This is a story of how Kwara was conquered by Caliph Usman Dan Fodio. Watch till the end.
The Might of the Crescent, The Fall of Kwara. Chapter 1. The Fire in Gober. The sun hung low over the plains of Gober, painting the grasslands in gold. In the quiet hum of the evening, a tall, dark-skinned scholar stood before a gathering of men. Shehu Usman Dan Fodio. His turban was simple, his robe plain, but his words carried the weight of thunder. "Brothers," he declared, his voice echoing through the trees, "we rise not for gold or glory, but for justice and faith. The rulers have forgotten Allah. We shall remind them." The crowd erupted, warriors, herdsmen, students, and imams, united by faith and fire. From that night, a spark was born. It would spread like Harmattan flame across the Hausa lands and beyond. Chapter 2. The Call of the Jihad. Under the crescent moon, campfires flickered across the Sahel. Riders sharpened blades and whispered prayers. Flags of green and white, stitched with verses from the Quran, fluttered in the desert wind. Usman's son, Muhammad Bello, and his trusted General Abdullahi stood before him. "Kwara lies to the south," Bello said. "Its king, Afonso of Oyo, grows defiant. He seeks power, not piety." Usman's gaze hardened. "Then Kwara shall hear the call of Islam. We ride at dawn." The sound of drums rolled through the night, the war drums of the Fulani. The jihad was no longer a whisper. It had become a storm. Chapter 3. The Lion of Ilorin. Far in the city of Ilorin, King Afonso, the fiery warlord of Oyo origin, sharpened his sword beneath the towering baobab tree. His armor gleamed like bronze in the midday sun. He had once been Oyo's greatest general, but pride had driven him from the elephant's court. Now, he ruled Ilorin as his own kingdom, proud, independent, unyielding. When word reached him that Usman's banners were marching from the north, Afonso laughed. "Let him come," he boomed. "The Fulani ride horses, we ride thunder. Let them taste the steel of Afonso." But in the crowd, his advisor Alamai, a quiet Fulani preacher, bowed his head. He whispered a prayer, not for Afonso's victory, but for the will of destiny. Chapter 4. The Storm over the Savannah. The battle began at dawn. The skies above Ilorin were streaked with red, as though the heavens themselves foresaw blood. Fulani cavalry swept across the plains like waves. Their white turbans glowed beneath the sun, their chants of "Allahu Akbar" shook the earth. Spears gleamed, swords flashed, and the rhythm of hooves became thunder itself. Afonso's warriors met them head-on. The clang of iron filled the air. Arrows darkened the sky. In the chaos, Bello led a daring charge straight through Afonso's center lines. The king roared in fury, cutting down a dozen riders with his two-handed blade. His strength was unmatched. But the Fulani were many, disciplined, devoted, and driven by faith. By nightfall, smoke rose above Ilorin. The city trembled. The storm had only begun. Chapter 5. The Betrayal. As the fires of battle cooled, a quiet tension gripped the city. Inside Afonso's palace, Alamai, the Fulani cleric who had once served as the king's advisor, knelt in prayer. When Afonso stormed in, his face was twisted in rage. "You prayed while my men bled. You spoke of peace while your people raised swords." Alamai lifted his eyes calmly. "My king," he said softly, "you fight for power. We fight for God. Which victory do you think lasts longer?" Afonso raised his sword, but before he could strike, the palace doors burst open. Fulani warriors poured in. Alamai's followers, once loyal to the king, now turned against him. The great warrior king fell that night, surrounded by the smoke of his own rebellion. The crescent banner rose over Ilorin, and with it, the birth of a new emirate. Chapter 6. The Rise of the Emirate. Dawn broke over Ilorin. The city's streets were silent, save for the murmur of prayers. At the central mosque, Alamai stood beside Muhammad Bello, and before the people of Kwara, they raised the banner of Islam. From this day, Bello proclaimed, Ilorin shall be a seat of learning, justice, and the faith of the Prophet. No longer a kingdom of pride, but an emirate of peace. The people bowed. The sound of the adhan rose, echoing over the hills. Kwara was reborn, not as a conquered land, but as part of the Sokoto Caliphate, a realm united by faith and destiny. Chapter 7. The Wrath of Oyo. But the Caliphate of Oyo would not forgive. News of Afanja's death thundered through the empire. Drums of vengeance sounded from Oyo Isle to Offa. Oyo warriors marched north, bearing flaming torches and royal banners. The Fulani met them beyond the river Asa. The battle raged for 3 days, a clash of empire and faith. Yet the Fulani cavalry, guided by the discipline of jihad, outmaneuvered the mighty Oyo army. When the dust settled, the Fulani still stood, their banners untouched. That night, Bello looked upon the stars and whispered, The might of Islam is not in the sword, but in the soul that wields it. Chapter 8. The Legacy of the Crescent. Years passed. Ilorin thrived. Mosques replaced palaces. Scholars replaced warlords. The city became a bridge between the Hausa north and the Yoruba south, a land of trade, learning, and prayer. Emir Alamai ruled wisely, under the spiritual guidance of the Caliph in Sokoto. The people of Kwara spoke many tongues, but they prayed as one. In the twilight of his life, Usman Dan Fodio sat beneath the shade of a tamarind tree, writing his final treatise. A writer arrived from Ilorin with news. Kwara stands strong, O Shehu! Islam reigns where pride once ruled. Usman smiled faintly. Then the work was not in vain. As the sun dipped below the horizon, the old scholar closed his eyes, content that faith had triumphed over tyranny. Epilogue. The Song of Ilorin. To this day, the people of Ilorin still tell the story, how the sword and the crescent rose together, how the mighty Afanja fell to the tide of destiny, how Kwara became a beacon of faith. And when the desert wind blows across the plains, one can almost hear the echo of hooves and the cry of the muezzin. La ilaha illa Allah. There is no God but Allah.